Trevor Lawrence was somehow able to continue playing despite getting his leg and knee awkwardly bent, while Jimmy Garropolo suffered a very real injury to his ankle that could cause him to miss extended time. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and if you're new here and enjoy learning about the underlying anatomy and mechanisms of different sports injuries, then please consider subscribing to stay up to date with all future videos and support this channel. Let's start off with Garoppolo's ankle injury because I think it's more straightforward. Of course, as Garoppolo is going to the ground here, if we focus on that left ankle, we can see how kind of in this position, how awkwardly, I would say more everted, his ankle is relative to his shin. Now, this I think is a little bit of a mix between a high ankle sprain and more of a pure eversion sprain, but you'll see here how as the defender kind of comes off, now we can really see that amount of eversion with actually the bottom side of his cleats and the outside of his foot exposed up above the turf. So in this position, if we sort of had a front-on view, we'd see that the inside of his ankle is bent down touching the turf and the outside has twisted out. We call that eversion. There's not as much pure external rotation that I would expect to see from a standard kind of usual high ankle sprain. And so I think that this is almost a little bit more of what we call like an eversion sprain to the deltoid ligaments on the inside, but there could be just the angle that we're seeing it where this is truly more of a high ankle sprain. The part that's concerning for me is as Garoppolo sort of makes a second contact right here with the turf, look how much we see his shoe move. Now, I don't know if this is just because his cleat is loose or if this is because of true instability in his ankle, but that little significant shift that we see there, especially because it continues back into his heel, to me is concerning that there might be real significant instability in his ankle. Hopefully I'm wrong and this is just his shoe is loose, but you shouldn't be able to just contact the turf and then have that much movement in an everted position. It would be normal for your ankle to invert a little bit more if it just contacts the turf that way, but that subtle little knock that he gets the second time to me implies there might have been a more significant ligament injury to where there's true instability that when he just has this mild contact to the turf, there is more ability for that ankle to move. The fact that Garoppolo was able to walk off the field makes a significant fracture much less likely, but there could still be quite a bit of instability in the ankle, suggesting this might be a more long-term injury. Next, we'll dive into what happened with Trevor Lawrence and his seemingly rubber bones and joints to be able to bend like this and still stay in the game. We'll also talk about the anatomy for both of them, but first I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video. This video is sponsored by Raycon, the makers of the everyday earbuds, something that I use every day and I think makes a great holiday gift. The holidays can be really stressful, and giving somebody the gift of reliable earbuds that also sound fantastic can help to ease some of that stress of long days at the airport or long hours in the car. And as the person gifting them, you also gotta love that they start at half the price of other premium audio brands. Also during the next month, Raycon is having a countdown to Christmas with a new pop-up flash deal for you to take advantage of every single day. Let me tell you about all the features packed in this. The case has wireless charging, it's USB-C, it's super slim and easy to fit in your pocket. They're super comfortable in your ears with these nice soft gel tips and a really snug fit that gives you the confidence they're not going to come out during those long workouts. They also have a great slim profile in your ear if you want to use them for those online conference calls. Click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/BrianMD and use code HOLIDAY to save 15% off site-wide. There will also be new pop-up deals every day during Raycon's countdown to Christmas. You can find Raycon in stores now like Kohl's or Walmart, but just so you know, if you go to buyraycon.com/BrianMD, you'll always make sure you're getting the best deals available on Raycon. So make someone's holiday a little bit better with the gift of Raycon's everyday earbuds. Trevor Lawrence's injury is a great example of why sometimes I am terrible at predicting injuries, because when I first saw this happen live, I thought he was for sure going to be out for the game. I thought this was a significant MCL injury. I wondered if he dislocated his kneecap. Clearly I was way off because he came back in and played the entire second half. There's actually a couple of things to look at here with this mechanism, one of which is similar to what we just talked about with Garoppolo, and that involves Lawrence's ankle. So when he first kind of gets dragged down here, look at his left ankle. You'll see how that's a little bit of eversion, just like we talked about with Garoppolo. Now, I think the big difference is that it doesn't really have his foot anchored into the ground. He's more down on the side of the ankle, so there's not as much loading of the ankle joint to cause that ankle to twist and lead to a high ankle sprain, but there was still a component of a little bit of eversion, some stress on the ankle, and then obviously higher up at his knee as well. Beyond his foot not being anchored flat into the ground, what I think also saved his ankle is that you can see how he was able to roll kind of over the defender and the ankle didn't stay forced down onto the turf. His heel right here is able to come off of the turf as he's rolling over the Lions player. And I think that's what saved the ankle from being a more significant injury. Moving on to the knee, whenever I see a mechanism like this, my first thought is the MCL. Of course, we worry about the ACL all the time with the knee, but oftentimes when it's as flexed or bent like it is in this position, I don't get as concerned about the ACL, and I think more about the MCL just based on how they're preferentially stabilizing the knee. But whenever we see this kind of falling backwards, twisted over your knee, we see a lot of MCL injuries in that scenario. And so that was my first thought, just looking at the first replay. The other thing that I wondered about here is whenever you get bent this way, you can see how his knee is sort of bent outwards. There's going to be a little bit of a pull on his kneecap to the side. I wondered about a temporary or transient kneecap dislocation. Right here, we can faintly see the outline of his patella or his kneecap, and it maybe looks like it could be a little bit subluxed, and then there's sort of this time where it looks like it goes back to a more neutral position. And so right about there, it looks like it's more in line, as opposed to a few frames before. I could argue that maybe it was a little bit subluxed out to the side, especially right here in this view. The patella already has a tendency to want to pop out to the lateral side or the outside of the knee. So when you pull your leg in such a way that the knee goes in and the kneecap wants to move out, you make it even more likely to temporarily come out. But somehow all those bad things seemingly didn't happen, or at least didn't happen severely enough to where Lawrence was ruled out of the game because he came back in. So like I said, this just goes to show that sometimes the mechanisms and what we think happened isn't exactly the case. I will say though, based on where he grabbed and just knowing how sometimes the evaluation of these sports injuries goes, I wouldn't be surprised if we heard about a meniscus injury to his knee. He looks like he's kind of grabbing the backside of the knee, and whenever your knee gets loaded and twisted while it's bent or up in flexion, that loads the backside of the meniscus, and then you twist it, and it would make sense that he would grab along the back of his knee if the posterior or backside of his meniscus had been torn, and that might be a little bit harder to pick up right away on the initial physical exam. That flexion is really shown right here where his knee is bent, and then you add the component of the twist. That bending, that flexion loads the posterior part of the meniscus, you then twist the knee. So it wouldn't surprise me if we learned in the coming days that there might be a meniscus injury to his knee, even though he was able to come back and play the rest of the game. Now let's talk about our anatomy first with Garoppolo's injury. Here we're looking at a left foot and ankle, and this is going to be the outside, this is going to be the inside. The inside are these ligaments called the deltoid ligament complex. There's multiple little ligaments here, but these are the ligaments that are injured with more of an eversion sprain. They can be injured with a high ankle sprain, but again, with Garoppolo's, it almost looked more like pure eversion than the classic external rotation that injures this guy right here, the high ankle sprain ligament, or the AITFL. I don't think we're dealing with these low ankle ligaments. I don't think we're dealing with the peroneal tendons on the outside. Based on the direction that his foot went, which was again in sort of this direction, I'd worry about excess pull on these deltoid ligaments or an eversion sprain. Those are going to be treated more like a high ankle sprain than a low ankle sprain, and so I would expect more of that order of maybe like 2 weeks plus with a high ankle sprain / eversion sprain, unless there's something more serious like a fracture that we just haven't heard about yet. For Lawrence, I just want to highlight the anatomy of the two menisci. So this is going to be the back side of the knee. This is going to be the front. If I zoom out a little bit here, you can appreciate that more. So whenever we bend the knee or flex the knee, the femur is going to rotate down in sort of this direction, which is going to put more compression on this posterior or back half of the meniscus. Then whenever you go into that twisting position, you've already sort of compressed that posterior meniscus, and then you potentially lead to a tear. That would explain him grabbing more the back of his knee and could also suggest why there was clearly some pain, but he didn't seem to have a big major ligament injury and was able to continue playing. I expect with both of these we'll know much more throughout Monday or Tuesday here. I expect both of them are gonna get MRIs, and with Garoppolo, I think it's more a matter of how much time he misses rather than if he misses time at all. With Lawrence, it does still seem to be more of will he miss any time, and hopefully if there's no meniscus tear there that's uncovered, he's able to play next week. That's it for the video, everybody. Thank you again to Raycon for sponsoring the video. It's a great way to help support this channel. If you want to go check them out, let me know as always any questions or comments down below. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.